believe.
Look at us now, tip to
Ooh, Jesus.
Shout out to Morning Kombat.
Do you want a margarita? Yes! My God!
to us, doing what we love. But it's time to bang. Oh, yeah, it's Friday the 13th, June of the 25s, and this is the best damn sports compost that you ever came across. Hey, it's Morning Kombat. It's back in your face hole. And Luke, Friday the 13th, right? Brian Campbell, Luke Thomas, you already knew that. That means that any late teenage males looking to have sex at a summer camp are probably going to get murdered, right?
My understanding is young men don't have sex with women anymore, so I don't think that's as much of a concern as it once was.
Hey, all right. I mean, Grinder, I just met her, right? Yeah, let's go. All right. Hey, Luke Thomas, it's Friday. You know our listeners ain't got shit to do. We're coming off a PFL Thursday. We got UFC Atlanta on Saturday. Are you fired up about life, or are you hoping the padlock on your office door keeps Hurricane Tukes away?
Yeah, well, I don't know how well that's going to go. I'm here in the bomb shelter. My daughter is on a rampage. She has no school today. It's like one of those parent-teacher conference days where you go in to meet. So I have to do that later.
It's finals for my kids. Isn't she almost done?
Yeah, her last day is, I think, next week. So we're almost done with that, and then the summer camps begin. So fun stuff for people who I'm sure who are listening in their 20s and 30s who don't give a fuck. But that's life
probably. But for those same listeners, I wanted to let them know today's episode of Morning Kombat is presented by DraftKings, and at DraftKings, the crown is yours. Welcome to everybody watching on the DraftKings network, watching on YouTube, listening on podcasts. Or anyone listening while crowning at the moment, okay? Keep pushing. You'll get there at the end of the day. Hey, why don't you like this video if you like us? Why don't you subscribe to what's going on here? And if you are freeloading, all you have to do is hit subscribe. You can mute the notifications, but you hit subscribe. It helps us further our hope of staying alive and continuing to tell the truth in combat sports, whether you're ready for the truth or not. Right, Luke?
That's what I've been doing.
That's right. Yeah, welcome on board. Okay. Hey, we do have a great episode and a third member of our team, the producer, director, bong enthusiast, and son of a horned-up Australian man's ball bag. Hey, it's Luke Nocita, who did a main card minute podcast watch-along during an 11 p.m. Eastern PFL Nashville card. Wow, brother, night.
It was a good card. Shout out Thad Jean getting the decision, plus 400, no big deal.
Did your girl dump you yet?
She enjoyed every second of it. She, watched her show out on the couch, and she's in bed by 11 o'clock anyway. I mean, what were they doing with that main card time? I have no idea.
Dude, I can't believe you picked watching PFL over sleeping in the bed with your girlfriend. That is.
I mean, I slept in the bed with my girlfriend just later in the night. What do you mean?
Okay, we're getting intimate here. We're getting personal. Oh, wow. Long out Luke's like, I'm out of this bitch.
Remember when I told you Gen Z men aren't banging their girls? There we go.
Oh, boy. Look at this. Look at this.
I didn't think it was time for shots fired yet. Shit.
We'll get there. Brought to you by Cuervo. Yeah, shouting out our sponsors. Luke, power to the people fighting the good union fight. I believe it seems like MMA fighting and Vox have come to terms to prevent a strike, so our good friends will be back in business.
Always happy to see good people taken care of.
Absolutely. So shout out to journalism. Shout out to
hey, I have something for you, BC.
Oh, please. Do you have a shirt I could wear on Monday?
Turns out I got a couple of them.
Oh my god. So do I get to pick my poison or do you, Luke?
Yeah, so here's what I'm going to do. And this is what I would like to do. And I'm sorry they got delayed. There was a giant shipping problem. It was a whole thing.
Tariffs. All I heard about was tariffs, right?
Well, dude, I bought both of these out of my own pocket. Show didn't pay for this. I bought them. But
we don't have the Showtime budget to get us gnarly robes anymore.
We certainly don't. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to I'm not going to let you pick the shirt ahead of time. You can pick the shirt on air. And what you're going to do is I'm going to put it flat on the table and you're going to hold it up for the camera and let it see what it says. You got to read it out. And then once you read out both of them, you can decide which one you want to wear.
And then I have to change on air.
You can just put it over what you have.
All right. I'll wear a wife beater to the show then. We'll just put the new T-shirt over that. Yeah.
All right.
There we go. Luke, anything else you want to say about life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, BJ Penn's fourth arrest, or any ice pickups in DC? Because that is getting serious out there.
It's mostly Northern Virginia. It's supposed to be coming. There is a big ass parade, which I will not be going to because I'm not a fucking idiot. And I have a kids party anyway in the middle of the afternoon on Saturday. So I am going to be taking the Tukester to that.
Oh, what is the setup? Is like a bouncy house? Is there like painting?
Yeah, it's supposed to be someone's house, and they're supposed to have like a giant extravaganza. So I'm hoping that there is a corner for me to sit in, and I don't have to talk to anyone while I burn 2 hours. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they'll all be talking Spanish anyway. You can just go deep.
No. This is one of her. One of her childhood.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, do we need those people in this world? I don't know, Luke. But hey, we're happy.
That's the best part. Is like going to one of my wife's parties. You know, she's like, I got to go with. First of all, I've said this before, dude. You know, Latin American people, they just party better. I don't care what anyone says. There's always booze, and I'm not under any obligation to talk to anybody. It's actually quite perfect.
You should draft Uncle Pepe, who uses his pipe to get down. You should draft him as like your party wingman.
I could, but he's also a little quiet. You know what I mean? He's not a big partier, so
all right. There you go.
Honestly, it'd be best if you were there. That way, we could go and make total asses of ourselves.
It'd be great if we get Jake.
Also, Tuki asked about you.
What does she refer to me as?
So she goes, "Is Uncle Gringo an uncle?" And I'm like, hence the name. And then she goes, "Is Uncle Gringo an uncle?" Like, and then she named some of her actual uncles, and I was like, well. Not quite like that. You know, she was trying to ask, like, are you related to us? And I was like, I don't know if you could tell, but he's clearly got a chromosomal issue that's different than the rest of us. And that makes him, you know, unusual.
All right.
I didn't say that.
We'll leave it at that. You may have seen that flash on the bottom of the screen. Our merch hole is back and it's filled. It's morningcombat.shop. You can wear our fantastic design. Shout out people like Average Joe Art, who is a designer for this here site. Long Island Luke running the show. Quickly, Nosita, we moving product over there at morningcombat.shop because the proceeds, they go to the three of us.
We're moving product. It slowed down a bit since the initial launch, obviously, but the posters are officially sold out. We'll be dropping new merch next month, but you can still get the skits and bits stuff for the rest of June. So if you didn't already, hop on.
And I don't know if you saw yesterday during the Brian Campbell ramble, but the fans are now asking for autographed bongs on the MK Morning Combat.
Are they really?
Yes, they are. And I don't know if Nosita can get that done, but we'll
would we get fired if we did that?
I think we'd get high. I think that's the point. You know what I mean? Yeah. All right. There you go. Fired from who? From who, Luke? All right.
Yeah, I've already been fired a few times. You know what I'm saying? So.
Hey, enough of this BS. Let's get into the show. All right. You guys ready? Locked up, fired. Let's do it. UFC Atlanta is topic number one. And this don't suck. This does not suck for a fight night. We're back. State Farm Arena and a crossroads welterweight tilt in the main event. And this UFC Atlanta preview is brought to you by Total Wireless, the official wireless provider of UFC. Get unlimited data that won't slow you down. There's a big narrative here. Will the bad knees of Kamaru Usman slow him down? Let's get into it. Despite being 38 years old, riding a 3-fight losing skid, snapping a 600-day layoff, and oh, by the way, having not won a fight in the division since 2021, former pound-for-pound king Kamaru Usman will bring his number 5 welterweight ranking into this crossroads bout with a streaking number 7 Joaquin Buckley. So, Luke, if you're looking for steaks, right, get them out on the grill. Usman believes this is just the beginning of him getting back into title contention in 2 divisions, while Buckley has revealed this week that the UFC told him this fight right here is a number 1 contenders bout. So if we know the stakes, what is the most interesting angle in your mind to focus on stylistically in this matchup?
Oh, this is a very good question. All right. Assuming that the stakes are as aforementioned, most interesting. I mean, to me, I'm going to say a couple of things. One, I think that the potential work rate of Buckley could prove decisive. It's not like Usman has bad cardio. Is really not what I mean, but I tend to think that the accuracy and the effectiveness of what he's doing declines over high work rate bouts, unless he's the one dealing. So I'm referring to a situation where Buckley is really putting it on him. Again, not so much in damage, but in just making him labor his way through things. But to me, what I'm going to say is the takedown in either direction seems like a really important bout. I actually don't think the bout is going to be decided by who gets more takedowns or something like that. I don't really think that that's quite right. But what I mean to say is, to what extent, I mean, Buckley goes for about 2 per 15 minutes, and Usman is about just a shade under 3 per 15 minutes. So you would imagine that they would at least statistically be able to trade the amount of takedowns here, but it's more than that. I think if you get Buckley, who is going to be faster and I think much more explosive and mobile on the feet, if he's then able to get takedowns enough to disrupt what Usman is already being able to do on the feet, which I think is going to be largely playing catch up, or at least playing Buckley's game, but more to that point, just kind of setting the offensive tone here a little bit and putting him in a space where he's, what Usman did to RDA was just kind of overwhelm him with offense. And I don't think Buckley's going to be able to replicate the numbers that Usman put in, which is like 100 strikes landed and 10 takedowns. I'm not expecting that. But what I am saying is, BC, I think this might be one of those fights where I've kind of thought this was coming for a while, where Usman is kind of going to be shown to be a little bit old. We've seen it already. But what I mean is, here he had a break. He had a chance to get ready. This wasn't Chimaev on short notice. This wasn't a different weight class.
Yeah, he had 2 years to get ready, Luke.
Right.
I mean, what are we doing here, right?
This is what I mean. So what I'm trying to explain is, to me, like the way in which the takedown can be weaponized here is not that I think the fight is going to end there, but rather what it signifies and what it kind of shows, and then what it leads Usman, unless he's able to dominate with it, what it kind of leads him to in the later rounds, which is, I think, is going to be playing just a ton of different catch up. I'm kind of looking to see Buckley just do a lot,
I'm looking to see both sides. Is Buckley truly ready for the title? 6 wins in a row since moving down to 170 pounds, 4 stoppages in those 6 fights. And look, the names have been pretty decent as of late. Colby Covington at the end of 2024, Wonderboy Thompson just 2 months earlier in October. So it's been a hell of a run. Vicente Luque, Andre Fiallo, in that streak of fighters he had stopped. He enters in as the B-side in terms of name value on this marquee, but the betting favorite, according to DraftKings, Buckley minus 278, and the veteran Usman plus 225. Nosita, if we can pick these elements out of order, can you please show me the picture of Usman at age 38? Luke, he's shredded. You can see the Clyde Drexler hairline right there. He looks both old and fit. Are you confident Kamaru can still be 80% of the man who won 19 consecutive fights, captured the welterweight title, dominated as pound-for-pound king?
For a few rounds, maybe. But first of all, even 80% is a big drop-off, right? I mean, we're talking about a portion of the game where any amount of change can yield drastic consequences. So like 80% from whatever used to be the such that you had 100% standard would be an enormous drop-off. And I think he probably could do it. I think he can probably do it for the first 3 rounds. And I don't think he's going to fade from a cardio standpoint, BC. I think he's just going to be made to play catch-up, which is kind of what I was alluding to earlier. I think he can probably win a round, maybe 2. I don't know if Buckley has it in him to stop him. I think his attacks appear to be a little less coordinated, and again, a little bit more just a wave of offense, But I think this is probably the time that, like, people have been ranking him highly, and I've said it before, including him in top of the division, let's matchmake. I think this is the part of the career where he gets ushered out.
I mean, in the Crossroads setup, it should be. This would be 7 wins in a row for Buckley if he gets it done. The biggest name possible on that list. But Luke, this is a crowded division at the moment, right? Like, it's extra crowded by the addition of Islam Makhachev. So what are we doing here from the standpoint, if JDM is going to defend against Makhachev next, don't we already have issues with Shavkat Rakhmonov being owed a title shot when he gets off of injury? You've also got Sean Brady in a position to claim a big shot. Ian Gary feeling like he's 1 win away. Is it really possible in your eyes that Buckley with a win here could go from this to a title shot?
I think only if he beats the shit out of Usman or stops him early. Like, if he goes in there and just steamrolls him, that would be enough. But that seems relatively unlikely. Now, Buckley makes a big noise, and I think that might also put him ahead of Sean Brady, who had a really nice win over Leon. But, you know, I mean, obviously I like Sean Brady, but I don't know if he is, you know, the UFC's preferred candidate in the sense of how much he'll do to sell a fight, whereas Buckley will do quite a bit. So that makes a bit of a difference. But you're right. Like, by the way, they could just be telling him that this is number one contender. I mean, the point you're raising is like, well, Rakhmonov just was, and Bilal is probably going to look for a fight relatively soon. And yeah, as you mentioned, Ian Gary is not far behind. And hello, there's Sean Brady. Like, I don't know what about this fight is so different that the winner under any circumstance would be placed into a number one contender's position. It seems to me it'd be put into like 1A or 1B, and then those two are going to have to fight it out, right? Because if Islam JDM is excellent and controversial, they're going to run that one back.
I agree.
You know, so like it's just, to me, if you're a contender at welterweight, I just don't know how you can look at your situation. You can feel very good about it. You're clearly right next to the mountaintop. It's not fool's gold, but you're going to have to clear another hurdle to get to that next spot. And you cannot leave any stone unturned. He has to go in here and really put it on Usman.
Indeed. And Usman is 38 years old, incredibly inactive, as I mentioned, 600 days off, hasn't won in this division in 4 years. But Luke, he went to the media table at Q&A day here and straight up believes he's got a 3-fight plan to, I guess, immortality. I mean, Usman's already, in my opinion, one of the greatest fighters in UFC history. He's done things very few people do. I just think it's ridiculous for him to retain a number 5 rating. And I want to know if you think the amount of ambition he's showing about his short-term future is ridiculous too. Let's listen to the former champ.
Being in mind that the belt is obviously something you still want. How do you see your path there?
My path there, well, just pretty simple. I just lay out the map right here. Is finish Buckley this weekend, and then wait for the winner of I believe Islam and JDM, which is going to be an incredible fight. Such a great thing now having Islam come up into the division. You know, who wouldn't buy a ticket to that? Former pound for pound and current pound for pound. And I love Islam. Islam's a great fighter. I think that's something that we will both remember forever. Win that and go ahead and probably vacate, go up. Myself, Dricus du Plessis, if he is the champion, or Khamzat Chimaev too. If Dricus is no longer the champion, we do that if Dricus is the champion, we do that in the first card in Africa. I mean, that's another blockbuster. These are back-to-back blockbuster fights that you tell your grandkids about, and who wouldn't watch those? And so, and then after that, you know, now you're sitting with 2 belts, and it's like, what do we do next? You know, so that's, I would say, long-term goal in the back of my mind.
Can somebody tell Uncle Marty that it's not 2018? Like, what? I don't want to be a jerk about this. I respect everything Usman has done. He's one of the greats. But Luke, like, how do you go from a 3-fight losing skid to, let's say he does defeat Buckley and sort of, you know, prove that Buckley is not ready for this level? How do you go from that into a immediate shot in a crowded division for the welterweight title? And then you're going to fight in Africa to become a 2-division champion? What are we doing here, Luke?
Daydreaming.
All right.
Daydreaming.
All right.
It's not at all real. I mean, just nothing about that was realistic. You're right, dude. I don't want to sit here and bash Usman. He's the second best welterweight of all time, you know, against the only one to do it better, in my judgment, was George St. Pierre. And even then, Usman had an absolutely tremendous career. But, you know, this is what he does sometimes, BC. Like, you know, he was out there kind of advocating for a Canelo fight when he was champion at the time. And he was like giving these, like, in his mind, I think what sounded like plausible scenarios. And then to anybody else listening, there was like, none of this sounds plausible. Like, absolutely. He's selling a vision, you know, with like, I appreciate his optimism for himself. I don't think it's rooted in reality. And even if he were to beat Buckley, I just cannot imagine a scenario where they're just going to feed him to Islam if he wins, or even JDM. They would feed him to Shavkat or somebody else to build him up. Like, how is a 38-year-old welterweight with terrible knees anything that the UFC wants to plan around?
Yeah,
I mean, just be realistic about it.
This fight's important for the the title contention picture, but I don't think either of these guys with a win, even a impressive win, is in line to do that. I mean, is there a scenario where, let's say, Islam takes the title and Buckley wins this in the most aggressive, in your face, impressive style ever? Maybe is there a chance, we run him into Islam next? I guess maybe, but dude, there's like guys that have been owed. One of these guys is going to fight each other. Maybe they will. I don't know. I still like this matchup, and I still want to get who's going to win this, but we got one more piece of sound from Joaquin Buckley during the face-off they had outside State Farm Arena, where Buck was not afraid to kind of cuck to the honor of being so excited to face a legend like Usman.
I feel going up against a new gym. Feel good? I'm good. Yeah. This so real, guys. I'm with Usman, boy.
I mean, shout out New Manza. He did show up at our 3 Margarita show, Luke, after it ended. I always support that move from him right there.
Listen, he's jazzed for the opportunity. He's pumped for the opportunity, and he should be. This is a big one for him. And I know what a lot of people might say. It's like, oh, Usman kept it cool, and here was Buckley fanboying out, which is true. I mean, that's what happened. But at the same time, Buckley is like right on the tip of achieving his greatest professional accomplishments ever. Everything he's dreamed of, the whole reason he's been in this, all the wins, all the losses, he is hungry. Okay. Usman is well past all of that. And so the only way to really hold your position is to be much better than the other guy. Is he? I have my sincere doubts about that. We'll see on Saturday. But to me, people are like trying to be, oh, well, he's going to do a Pat Barry on Mirko Krokop. And I didn't get that vibe. Pat Barry was like reverential. To me, Buckley having this kind of joyful attitude about facing off with Usman is more of a position that like it's validation he deserves to be here. That's a very different thing than like it's this weird moment where you have to fight your hero. I didn't get that vibe.
Yeah, we'll be talking about Pat Barry very shortly. By the way, the coach of the co-main event star. I want to get, though, our betting enthusiast and expert, Long Island Luke, to chime in. 3-1, basically, minus 278. The odds from DraftKings in favor of Buckley. This is a 5-round fight against Old Marty. Where are you leaning from a betting standpoint?
You got to go with Buckley here. I mean, the layoff for Usman, the poor knees. I don't love this fight for him, and I just feel like Buckley's undefeated at welterweight, 6 in a row. Like
4 stoppages, baby. Yeah.
Bad news for Usman. I feel, at least. I'm taking Buckley. I got him parlayed with Rose, actually, plus 101. So
interesting. Now, Luke Thomas, from the standpoint of over/under, if Buckley does get this win, can he finish Usman? You don't see that often. Maybe never, right? I mean, when does that happen?
Well, I mean, Leon finished him. That can happen.
I mean, you're right. The head kick heard around the world. I obviously take that one example back, but a durable dude who went in there on short notice against Hamzat and kind of rallied late. I'm giving him his props. But if Buckley stops this man, that's a hell of a statement after all.
Buckley's got big power. His power translated at 85, and it's obviously significant at 70. Buckley, again, kind of tends to throw a lot at you that not necessarily all of it works, but he can do a lot, BC. He can wrestle offensively. His takedown defense, I think, is going to be tested to a degree in this one, but on the feet, he's just got many more weapons, is much quicker, I think much more agile at this point, and I think he's going to use that to his advantage. Can he stop him? It wouldn't be my first thought. I do think Buckley will win, and I think he'll probably win by decision. I wouldn't rule out a stoppage, and I would say if, like, Usman gets stopped inside 2 and like looks old, and this is clearly the end. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I do think Usman's crafty, is a veteran, and he's faced guys. All respect to Buckley, but he's definitely fought guys better than him. So I think he should be able to make the distance, but I guess we'll see.
I think we're going to get a Buckley stoppage. I think it'll be on injury, though. I'm serious.
That is a legitimate possibility. Like, could he do like an oblique kick and stomp out his knees?
Something like that'll happen, and then the old body will break down, and but either way, this would be a breakthrough for Buckley. I don't think title shot next, but we'll see what happens in that regard. Co-main event. According to Rose Namajunas, this one also could have future title implications from her standpoint. Just 2-2 is Rose after moving up to 125 pounds. The losses against Blanchfield and Farrow in competitive fights, but it just feels like we have been missing something of Rose during this run. So Rose saying, look, I feel like I'm finally adjusted to this weight. She also mentioned in the interview I had with her on the BCX this week that her fiance / trainer, Pat Barry, has really helped her realize some things about what she wasn't doing to her first 4 opponents at 125. But Luke, is it still realistic in your eyes as Rose welcomes a streaking Miranda Maverick who's on a 4-fight win streak in a fight Rose is expected to win, a minus 230 favorite? Is it still realistic to consider at 32 that Rose is a threat to the flyweight title, or is her slide of late maybe more to do with the coaching change of Trevor Whitman being gone during this 4-fight stretch and Pat Barry coming to the forefront? Which one is it? Is it both? How do you look at Rose's comments of her believing she's still in this and she's got a lot of fight left to go after that belt?
I don't think there's enough on tape. I mean, obviously she's a little bit up and down. I think she's won, I think you indicated 2 of the last 4, well, 2 of the last 3 certainly, but obviously losing to Blanchfield. There's not enough evidence to conclude that she's out of the mix in that way. She's still winning against decent names, and she's still young enough, and it just seems like, I'm not saying the division is utterly wide open, but it doesn't seem totally out of reach either. Plus, the opponent she's got, to me, is certainly putting the best win streak of her career together, but I just don't think has the same kind of fluid, dynamic offense as Rose. Sure. And so for those reasons, I would not be ready to count out Rose. On the other hand, BC, and maybe you feel differently, but it just seems to me like she's not really passing the eye test. She's getting the job done, and it would be silly to conclude she's not at least in close proximity. But there's a certain kind of meanness to her game that is missing. There's a certain kind of dynamism that has been kind of, I don't know, mellowed out in the middle of it. And of course, you need a more cerebral fighter as you get older. But again, she's not physically over the hill. And it just seems like there's a little bit of a quiet instinct to, not push it in ways that maybe once would have been there. I mean, part of her game used to be a little bit of that, this like great quick capacity for violence, or, even in Invicta, she's throwing up flying arm bars and stuff like that. A lot of that has been kind of drummed out of her. And you can do that if you're John Jones at light heavyweight and you're just much, much, much better than the rest of those guys. And so, some measure of evening out your game actually is better for longevity. I don't know that this is better for longevity. It seems like it's a bit of a downgrade. And so it'd be foolish to count her out.
Yes.
But at the same time, I don't have a strong vote of confidence that it's like some kind of inevitability either.
I agree. I mean, Pat Barry is kind of right. She's always been on that 3 or 4 fight pattern where she can win 3 in a row. And some of those wins look like literally the very best in the division's history, if we're talking 115, and then lose in such disastrous fashion, and being honest about her anxieties and mental challenges, where it's easy to root for her. But at 115, she could always come back around and give you that performance where you're like, oh, wow, she's still a killer. She's got a 13-7 record, but it's deceiving. We already know that. But at flyweight, exactly. I haven't seen that edge. I haven't seen that killer instinct. Under Trevor Whitman, she just seems to be a different fighter. Now, we do have to figure out, is the weight cut the difference, or is it just she was sharper under Trevor? She was more confident. I know Pat Barry's a big hype man, but I don't know. It's interesting. So I had her on my podcast this week, and I did ask her specifically about that transition to this weight class and how she would rate her performances thus far going 2-2. Here's Rose. What are you confident in who you are in this weight class, and that there's still a big run to the top here?
Yeah, there is, because I know what I know. I know that what I'm capable of. And so it is a little frustrating feeling like I know that I can do better, and I know that it could be a lot better. And so it's just kind of one of those things where I just have to submit to God's plan, because at the end of the day, it's like it just wasn't his plan at the time. And also I've made some realizations too, that I've realized I've made a lot of adjustments in my training, as far as like just me realizing that I was like kind of holding myself back, and I didn't even know that I was doing that. Like I thought I was like, I'm like I'm like, in training, and I'm like breathing hard, and then or I'm like struggling with something, and past like, you're just letting these people do this. I'm like, what are you talking about? Then I'll go back and rewatch it, just all of a sudden until now, and it's like, oh yeah, what was I doing? Like, why am I just like kind of just sitting there, and I'm thinking, I'm like, I'm breathing, I'm making myself breathe heavy, you know? So it's just kind of one of those things where I'm like, it's one of those realizations where it's like, oh, it's better to realize that now, and hopefully that translates into the fight, and hopefully, um, yeah, that's just what I'm praying for, that I'm not crazy, and that yeah, the adjustments are I guess the difference maker.
I mean, look, with respect, she's been mercurial her entire career with those highs and lows in the performance. And a lot of times it does come down to mental. Did she sound mentally ready there? Like maybe some of these realizations that she's, giving her opponents too much respect, that maybe that's the difference?
Again, nothing about what you see or hear from her is like automatically disqualifying. I didn't, maybe you feel differently. I didn't hear anything in there that I was like, well, you could nitpick this or nitpick that. It didn't sound to me all the way off. It's just that when it comes fight time, it just seems like she can get to third, maybe even fourth gear, but not the one from the previous fifth gear that really made her special and set her apart. That to me seems to be the issue. Like, you asking how much of a percentage of Kamaru Usman at his highest level are we going to get? Is it going to be 80%? Feels like we're getting like 85, maybe even 90, which sounds like a lot. But I've told you before, 5-10% difference can just yield pretty significant results. I don't know. I don't know what to make of this one. I mean, the thing is, Rose at her best just seems like vastly better than Miranda at her best. But this is like a different kind of zenned out Rose, and that makes this obviously much more competitive than it otherwise would be.
No question about it. Now, look, Maverick has run 4 in a row. She's won 6 of her last 7 overall, going back the past 3 years. The only loss, a decision to Jasmine Jasudavicius. They also have history together, and I wonder if this really favors Rose. Rose told me specifically they sparred kind of regularly for the past 3 years, but in the last year and a half, it got very regularly. She says they know each other's tendencies, all that. And I think, Luke, the biggest problem is you look at Maverick's resume and you're like, okay, her best wins are Andrea Lee, Priscilla Cachoeira. We're not talking about the level of Rose. So with Rose being ranked 6 and Maverick at 12, this does feel like a let Rose get well after that competitive, but 48-47 on all 3 scorecards lost to Blanchfield. But a lot of people are still saying, with Rose only being 32, and Rose admitted that she hears it too, why don't you just fight at strawweight? Is it the weight cut that's the issue, or what is the issue? And Luke, that's something I asked her about as well. Let's hear one more time from Rose.
And I technically probably still could make it. It's just like, but like the way that I feel, and I feel like body types are different too. And especially as you get lower and lower, I feel like the harder it is. Like every pound matters more the smaller you go. So I feel like now, and I have put on more size, and I naturally was just getting bigger and bigger each time. So I don't know. It just, like, what we do is already dangerous as it is, but then when you're adding like the dehydration and stuff, I just really didn't like it. And then, I also have this goal of becoming 2 division champions still. So like that's my other goal. Like I've already achieved whatever goals at strawweight that I wanted to achieve. I became champion, I defended it, all this stuff, And like sure, I could go back down there and, I think I would be, become champion again if I really wanted to. But I just feel like I've been there and done that already. And if I can, and if whatever this and the adjustment to make to one weight class, I feel like takes time, and it takes it's a lot that has to come together. So I don't want to waste my time, doing something that I already did.
I mean, I understand that. I understand she feels like she's accomplished everything at 115. She's actually hoping Weili moves up. She wants to fight her a 3rd time and would love it if Weili beats Valentina to do it for the title. But Luke, even though Rose said she believes she's 1 or 2 wins away from a title shot, if she performs like she did in the last 4, I don't think she can beat Valentina or even Ferro in a rematch, or anyone at the highest level. I'd kind of like to see her if she wins on Saturday against an Alexa Grasso, so we can learn more about both of them. But let's focus in on Saturday. What can Miranda Maverick do, in your eyes, to slow this journey?
She has to get the takedown, and I think has to mix it up. If she can keep this fight on the ground the entire time, then I would say actually you can do that. I don't think that's going to be super likely, but I had her stats here just a minute ago. Actually, as I got them here, excuse me. per 15 minutes, and this is a 15-minute fight, 2.39 takedowns per 15 minutes for Miranda Maverick. It is central to what she has to do. That's nearly one a round, right? Not quite, but that's about where we're at. That's what she's going to have to do, BC. She's going to have to kind of pancake her a little bit. She has movement on the outside, and it's gotten a lot better, but I still think she's quite hittable there. It still seems a little bit robotic. Not terribly. I'm not saying she has a terrible stand-up. That's not my point, but the movement is a little bit robotic and rehearsed, and I think someone like Rose, who's a little bit more naturally on her feet, willing to throw and able to throw, can make contact with that and cause problems. But if you're dogged enough and you can get the takedown enough, I know that Rose can be a threat off of her back, but I just don't see defensive wrestling and defensive grappling or even offensive grappling from defensive positions as necessarily her strong suit. And here's the other part, BC. If she does get taken down, does she really have the fire to compete underneath? Like, for example, Juliana Pena was overmatched, right, against Kayla. Terribly overmatched. But on the ground, she was throwing hammer fists and like up kicks, and the up kicks were illegal. But I'm saying she was trying to be pesky underneath, right? Anything she could to disrupt. And we saw Diego Sanchez do this to very great effect when he got taken down and played from guard. There's a certain kind of urgency. I don't know if Rose has that urgency in her offense the same way, particularly from that position. That is something Miranda could get. Now, the problem with this, BC, is if Miranda fights this way, which, by the way, seems to me very plausible, it's a good win over a big name, but it's not, we talked about it before. It's not a politician winning a election via landslide where now you can just call your shots. It would be kind of like a grindy, I'm not going to say obvious win, but nothing especially interesting about it, which would not be great for Rose. And, obviously Miranda getting a win over Rose is important, but it wouldn't be a big mandate. I'm just saying it's not like she's going to go in there and box her ears off and then finish her off on the ground. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying she could probably grind her out here for a little bit just by being just aggressive and good with the top control. But I don't expect like heavy ground and pound, and I don't expect necessarily fierce resistance from Rose either. It could be for a bit of a dull affair if Miranda gets her way.
It has tendency to be dull. I just feel like Rose, any version of her, is going to win this because she's more skilled and will know how to win that striking battle to keep Miranda off of her, and maybe Miranda gets a takedown or two, but Rose is still showing good strength in this division. Nocita, the only betting intel I'm looking for is a Rose finish if she's back on that pattern and she locks back in and finds the eye of a tiger. Is a Rose finish possible here from a betting standpoint in your eyes?
I was just trying to find the odds on it. Personally, I don't think so. I think this fight goes the distance no matter what. Over 2.5 on this is minus 520. So odds makers think it goes long as well. Rose by finish, though, BC, plus 500 on that.
Oh, I'd take that bet. I'd give it a roll. But I don't know if she's going to be that. I don't know if she has it in her anymore. I really don't.
I don't either. I would have taken the over 2.5 if it wasn't such a hefty price. That's probably why I settled on Rose, but I don't feel too confident in her. But she should get this done, right? She should. Luke Thomas knows that at the end of the day, right? We can move on. She should get this done.
I'll take a flyer on Maverick.
Get out. As Luke Thomas would say, get out. Luke, what are you doing here? You're predicting a collapse because this is if Rose loses this, she should retire.
Rose has been a champion in this organization. I don't think Maverick ever will, but I just don't have great confidence in whatever Rose has got going on these days. I hope I'm wrong. Dude, nothing would be better than seeing her back at the top. Believe me, I'm not mad about that.
Yeah, but dude, how's Maverick going to win this, Luke? Please.
First of all, what's her nickname? It's Fear the.
Yeah. So how is Fear the going to win this? Yeah.
I think she's going to grind her out.
Oh,
she's going to grind her out.
Even if the Rose from the Esparza rematch shows up, all bets are off. But dude, I think it's much more of a leap that Maverick controls the aspects here and does enough to get a win, unless it's just a horrific fight that neither deserves to win. And you're saying that's what's going to happen, yeah, basically.
I think there's a decent chance of it.
Get
I'll
out
put it
of
that
here.
way.
All right, let's go plus 500 on the Rose stoppage just to prove that you're wrong here. Luke, let's keep on going down the card. A middleweight matchup. Edmund Shabazian is 2-2 since enduring that consecutive stoppage loss defeat streak that he was on, where he kind of looked like a bust. He's, though, a minus 170 favorite against a plus 142 Andre Petroski. Is this the same theme in your eyes, Luke, for this young Armenian, that if he doesn't finish Petroski in the first round, he probably gasses out and loses? Is that what we're looking at here in this matchup?
Yeah, probably. By the way, how does Shabazian have 2 takedowns per 15 minutes? That's an interesting stat. And his takedown defense, by the way, is not that great at 65%. And I think Petroski, if he can get him down, who's got 3.38 takedowns per 15 minutes. So BC, he's good for more than one a round. Just seems to me like if he can survive the first couple, first round and a half, something like that, he could probably overtake him late. I cannot believe that Shabazian is still having these issues, but he is still having these issues. He's still dangerous, BC. He is up and down. So it's not just like, we're not dealing with some kind of BJ Penn losing streak here where, he just can't get right. He'll get right at times. Times he can still put it on you. I think Petroski is there to be hit a little bit. Yeah, his striking differential between landed and absorbed is almost nil. He's there to be hit to a degree. It's just, if you can play the game, survive, move this over the long haul, you have to like his chances. So if it,
dude, Edmund's so
I favor
explosive for 4 minutes, and then he gets usually countered with a hook, and then the gassing starts coming in, and then he looks like a deer, a baby deer, Luke.
Well, his takedown defense is good, but it's not lights out. And for someone like Petroski, who doesn't have the best takedowns, but he's got good takedowns and they're relentless, it's a bit of a bad matchup, I think.
Yeah, Petroski riding a 3-fight win streak. No names on there, though, but this is an interesting
Rodolfo Vieira. He beat Rodolfo Vieira,
but who
is good.
He's good, but he's been gotten before. You know what I'm saying,
true.
Luke?
Yeah,
all right,
I get it.
Let's go down to this bantamweight matchup. A lot of talk about Cody Garbrandt here as a plus 164 underdog against the rugged veteran Ione Barcelos, who will be a minus 198 favorite in this bantamweight tilt. We already know the enduring narrative about Garbrandt. He'll never be the guy again. It doesn't appear to be that once did the robot against Dom Cruz in one of the most eye-opening pound-for-pound breakthrough performances. But he's also changed the look up so aggressively with the longer hair, the bald spot shining through, and now the eye tat. I know, Luke Thomas, you must be wondering, what's up with that eye tat? We got some sound to tell you.
Yeah, I just love artwork, tattoos. Actually, I was getting my armpit done, and it was hurting a little bit, so I was like trying to let it cop out to my tattooer. I was like, let's put one on the face. So I went to the face and did it, and just to give me some time to not act like a sissy on the armpit. So we put the face tattoo on and just went with it. Full send. Fuck it.
Can I ask a question?
He got his arm. This is the most MMA story ever. So I was getting my armpit done. After I did my Sean Brady ass cheeks. Yeah, what do you got, Luke? What do you got?
What is exactly the definition of full send?
I take it to mean when a young white male is looking to do something aggressively, whether that means attempt something dangerous, make a trick shot, you know what I mean? Go get that chick's number. It's like a full send. Am I misinterpreting the youth of
according to Urban Dictionary, full send, a term popularized in the online culture, essentially means to do something with 100% commitment.
Yes,
even if it means failing or facing potential consequences. It implies
then we got it right. There we go. We got it right. Yeah. I'm hip, Luke. I'm a hip dude. I'm a hip dad. Okay, all right,
dude. You're the most washed piece of shit that I know.
Hey, I'm taking my kids on a tour of Yukon today. I feel like it's I don't
know what's more washed than that.
I don't want them to go, Luke. I got 1 year left. Savor the flavor, right?
I can move in.
I feel like I was trying to they were pushing me out of the door back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm like, kids, don't leave. All right.
I know. But when we were kids, parents were like, yo, when you're 18, you're motherfucking dead to me.
Yes. Here's the rate we will charge you for rent when you're 18.
Bro, I didn't realize this. And I was talking to, who I was talking to about this was actually Chris Algieri. Chris Algieri noted that when he fought Pacquiao, HBO Boxing made it a big story that he was living at home with his parents at the time. He was living in their basement, right?
Waterbed, dude.
Living in Huntington, shout out.
Yeah. I mean, just an absolute shithole if ever there was one.
No, but it was in a real nice house with an in-ground.
I know. It's got nice parts,
I'm just being mean to Long Island Luke. I'm not being mean to Chris Algieri. But he was trying to explain to me, he's like, dude, my dad is from Italy and my mom is from Argentina. Like in those cultures, you don't leave the house until you marry. You don't.
Yes.
You just live at home. He's like, I was just living at home because that's just what you do. So, you know, there's different parts of the world where you can stay in the house till you're motherfucking 30. You know, I think I know a lot of dudes who are from that part of the world who still live with their moms and dads.
Yeah, but the difference is those dudes are getting laid, probably, right? Unlike the American
they're unlike Long Island Luke, they're actually having sex with women.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Long Island Luke lives with a
fine,
lady.
yeah.
Would you please? I mean, come on. All right, he's got it together. Luke Thomas.
My
what do you
daughter
think about
drew
that
on me.
eye
Can you
test?
see that? My daughter drew on me this morning.
Oh, that red spot. I thought that was a hickey. From,
no, it's cherries.
Hickey,
She drew cherries on me. Yeah.
All right. Would you? Your wife wouldn't give you a hickey this deep into the marriage, right? This
No,
is
she's
getting-
not. You know, Dub T or whatever the equivalent would be.
Luke Thomas, Cody Garbrandt, bless his soul. He says with a win here, the fight that needs to be made is him versus Sugar Sean O'Malley. And he even said, I think it could move pay-per-views.
Yeah.
Do you mean as a main event?
No one believes in that at all, except, I mean, dude, you got him and Usman up there being like, I'm one shot away from going to Mars. You know, you might as well just say shit like that. I mean,
and I don't want to talk too bad about Garbrandt. I love him, Luke. He's only 33, too.
Here's what I was going to say. He's obviously been chinned too many times. There's just no question his durability is messed up. However, BC, these are his last 3 losses. Figueiredo, former champ. Kai Kara France, could be the next champ. I think it's, you know, certainly fighting for one. And then Rob Font, a very, very good fighter. Now, the wins aren't super inspiring, Kelleher and Jones, but what I'm trying to point out is...
Yeah, Sunsao win stands up, though. That was beautiful.
Again?
The knockout of Rafael Sunsao, that was beautiful.
That was a while ago. But I'm trying to point out, he's not losing to chumps. He's only losing to, like, basically very, very good guys, right? Those are the ones that are beating him. Now, the Figueiredo one happened very quickly and kind of surprisingly, but nevertheless, not surprisingly, just very quickly. But the point I'm trying to make is he's not losing to chumps. Like, he hasn't lost to, like, just guys who are just have done not that much in their career. So you can't dismiss him. But I'm just trying to point out, you know, this statement of like, oh, they're going to give me an O'Malley. Oh, O'Malley, under what circumstance would he ever take that fight? I mean, like, we're not even being serious here. It's a silly thing to say.
Well, what do you think about Garbrandt being an underdog, despite the fact that he only loses to elites against Barcelos, who I certainly respect? He'll give you an honest scrap, but he's not a killer at this point in his career, Luke.
Just 38 too. He's not a super young guy. Although the Talbot win was pretty restorative. I think a lot of people thought Talbot was going to go in there and do something to him.
Right.
And he got a little bit run over in that fight, to be honest with you. I mean, I guess he got a little bit better.
311. I forgot that ever happened. Holy crap.
Yeah, dude. He and there was, again, we've been talking this year about how all these undefeated prospects are losing. This was one of them. I think this is winnable for Garbrandt. It's just a question of, like, can Garbrandt open up anymore? Barcelos is going to pursue his fight even if he gets finished. Right? He's got a certain kind of commitment, and it's the only kind of commitment that he can have in a fight. There's no real nuance to it. I mean, there's nuance to his game, but the intensity is never really calibrated. He just kind of goes for what he goes for. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't. And then on one hand, that makes him dangerous. On the other hand, that makes him vulnerable. But I feel like with Cody, he's been calibrating the intensity, and that's kind of been messing him up. And I don't know if he can get to a place where it's a little bit more, he's got more ready-made offense that's good to go. It just seems like he's reluctant to engage in the same kinds of ways. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a fun scrap, by the way. I think they'll actually match up very interestingly. But even him as a dog, I mean, I get it. Hayani just resurrected himself for that moment as the veteran that stopped the young, bright prospect whose gas tank wasn't ready for prime time, and he got caught up in a bad fight for him. I just feel like Garbrandt's still set up to potentially get a KO here, but I've lost all the confidence. Where in recent years, I was like, I don't have the confidence, but I still believe he might be able to spark himself into a run. Now, the run he was on, those 2 wins were second, third tier type, but yeah, we'll see what happens, Luke. I don't know about that eye tap, but it's not my life, Luke, right? I don't have the balls to get an eye tap, so I'll just go back to my basement.
People are like, oh, it's a big deal that he got a face tat. I'm like, his whole neck was blown, like the whole thing. Like,
yeah. Luke, can you tell me more about this Atlanta card? We do have Cody Brundage at middleweight against Mansour Abdul Malik. I don't know if you care about that. I do. Paul Craig is back in the featured prelim against Rodolfo Bellato with probably his job on the line. Old guy welterweights with Chiesa and Court McGee. Where are you at on this?
The one that's a little bit more interesting to me is Chris Moutinho is back. I don't have any high thoughts about him, but Malcolm Wellmaker, a bit of an interesting guy to pay attention to. There's a little bit of hype behind him. That could be an interesting one. Ricky Simone against Cameron Smotherman should at least be action-packed for as long as it lasts. Obviously, BC, your pants are going to be around your ankles when Vanessa Demopoulos is the curtain jerker on this card. I know you'll be greatly enjoying that. And, there's some other ones you could pick on this card as well. Phil Rowe, Angel Losa could be a little bit of fun. Fun fights between guys who put a little bit together. Umar C taking on Alonzo Menifield. Umar C, I believe, the brother of Sadabusi. So there's some decent names on there.
Fiesta and Court McGee, neither of them have a have a stoppage via strikes in their career. Do you think one of them gets it in this fight?
Court McGee doesn't have one?
That's what I read. I've read that. Okay. Also, Luke,
that's incorrect. He has 5.
Yeah, I was going to say that doesn't make sense. I'm pretty sure he knocked someone out cold.
I read
the interesting stat about that fight is that they both won tough. So it's 2 former tough winners going head to head.
I keep getting MMA centelled left and right lately. I mean, come on here. Just a fountain of misinformation. Your co-host here. Luke, we skipped by Moutinho, but for him to go on the regional scene, aggressively work his way back, and then get another contract when he was initially just, the guy with the green hair they brought in so that O'Malley last minute can beat him up. That seems to be a story, but I don't know if you saw the interviews he did this week where Moutinho admitted he was like suicidal after being cut from the UFC and was going through a bad breakup. And if it wasn't the next girl he met that sort of saved him, he doesn't think he would be here, Luke. That hits hard,
Oh, you may be, hold on, you may be right. Long Island Luke, which of his fights does he have stoppages in that are TKOs?
Court
put
McGee
some respect on my name.
I'm on SureDog right now. It says Court McGee has 5 KO wins.
Yeah, but I'm looking like he definitely doesn't have any in the UFC.
Okay, yeah, not in the UFC. He has one is submission to punches.
Okay, that must be the stat I saw. Their combined amount of fights without a stoppage win in UFC.
It's got to be UFC.
You were pretty close, BC.
Okay, so guys, put some respect back on my name. When I give you news, it's breaking. Okay, that's what it is. It's not fake. It's breaking.
Breaking my balls.
Breaking my balls. No, Sita, you like really bad MMA. What else should we be looking for? Is Paul Craig going to survive this job interview on Saturday?
I think he could, dude. I mean, he's going against the guy who had herpes last time they tried to fight.
This is the worst sport. The worst damn sport ever. Oh, yeah, that herpes guy. As opposed to,
we ran through this card. We have pretty much every fight on this card, so I'm not going to point out what's what, but I'll just give you a few interesting facts. 3 Codys fighting on this card. Garbrandt, Durden, Brundage.
I like Brundage. My guy.
The tough versus tough thing. Also, Michael Chiesa, his nickname is Maverick. Miranda Maverick, also on the 2 Mavericks on the card. I mean,
I don't fear either of those.
This is the kind of shit that I find interesting. All right, bye.
Yeah, but one is like Maverick is the nickname, and the other one is Fear the.
Yeah. Did she just adopt a baby, Luke? I wasn't following too close on Instagram, but I think I saw.
Do you think I pay attention to these people's lives in the personal capacity whatsoever?
She's got a thriving pickle business.
Yeah, I did
pickles.
So. Yes. Dude, pickles are so gross. People don't realize they're cucumbers in disguise. I mean, wake up, guys.
BC's got a pickle business, let me tell you.
Let's play Find the Pickle. All right, let's go to topic number 2, and it is all things PFL. They had a semifinals in 2 divisions Thursday night in Nashville. They were not in a Universal Studios Apex-like venue. It seemed to be an okay lower bowl in a small venue. It felt good to see in that regard. And it also coincides with all different kinds of PFL news, both good and extremely disturbing. But Luke, to kick things off here, despite the 11 p.m. Eastern main card start, are you kidding me here, Don, with 2 ends? Decent action in the main event. Thad Gene advances to the welterweight finals with a really hard-fought split decision over the ass-kicking machine, Jason Jackson. He'll take on Logan Storley come August 1st, as Storley took a grapple-heavy decision from Masayuki Kokori. Those will go down this summer. Is this the best final pairing so far in your eyes after what we saw on Thursday night? Because Thad Gene, Logan Storley, okay, I'm in. I didn't think Thad Gene would win this.
Thad Gene dropped Jason Jackson in the first round. Dude, Jason Jackson was
with a damn jab. With a damn jab.
Dude, you know what was interesting about Jason Jackson? Because I watched this fight live last night. He was wrestling like it was Pepe Le Pew. Do you remember this? Where he's like trying to get the cat, and the cat is like trying to just constantly push him on, and he's just constantly trying to find another way to like re-secure the hug, That's what it felt like to me because he was just hanging on for dear life. It looked like Pepe Le Pew trying to wrestle a cat. It didn't look that way to you. It looked that way to me. It was kind of funny. But dude, that Gene, listen, the tournament system, it's not like there are no benefits to it. Occasionally someone breaks out in a tournament and they look great. That Gene is exactly that guy. The Burkamov win he was not supposed to get, and probably this Jason Jackson win he was not supposed to get. And now he takes on Logan Storley, who, is not necessarily turning in the most interesting fights, but he is a winner. He is very good.
Dude, to be honest, since his split decision loss to
MVP?
to Amasov for the Bellator title way back, or the interim title or whatever, from that point forward, I don't think he's improved at all. Like, he's the same exact fighter. Like, he can win certain fights. He's lost fights he probably should have won. He's still incomplete. He's tough as nails, and he probably tears up a saloon on Friday nights in South Dakota. But do you get what I'm saying, Luke? I thought there was going to be a big evolution coming to like his striking that I haven't seen yet.
There was for a time, like up through the Adam Boric fight and stuff like that too. But I feel like now he's just kind of in win mode, and there's really not much else to say about it. Who's this? This Reggie?
This Reggie J. Yeah, he's back. I didn't pin the door down today.
So I gotta say, I love the fight between Thad Gene and Logan Storley. I think it's going to be great. And also, dude, Jesus Pinedo, arguably the best fighter ever out of Peru. What a revelation he is, running over Braga last night. And, Moved Habulayev is not going to be an easy fight for anyone. But these are good finals. These are good finals between good, talented fighters. And in the case of Gene, he's still undefeated. And I think very tested to a degree, but certainly not like Logan Storley, who's more than 20 fights into his career at this point. Fun. It's kind of a like striker versus... It's not quite right, but it's something of striker versus smothering grappler in both cases. Habulayev one and Storley in the other. So you really just kind of wonder what Pinedo and Gene have in store to deal with this. A tough fight in any direction, but listen, you can't say you got bad finals out of these welterweights and featherweight.
No, this part of it is good. I mean, Jesus Pinedo, he needed 76 seconds to knock out Braga, and he put together a pretty gnarly combination of punches.
I want to say something about that. I met a guy when I called XFC in Iowa, Saeed Yakub Kakramanov, and he went like 2-1 in the UFC, and the one fight he lost was when he was in Uzbekistan. They called him on short notice to fight Saeed Nurmagomedov. And he gave Saeed a bit of a tough fight at first. Obviously, he lost in the end, but he won the other two. And I think submitted one of the guys in one of the ones he won. Like, he's a very good fighter, and they just let him go. And here's a case of Jesus Pinedo, went 1-1 in the UFC, very, very young. They let him go. And I don't think that was necessary. I mean, listen, prospecting is a tough challenge. Yeah. It's hard to know exactly who's going to break out. So it's not like I'm saying these were obvious calls. They were not necessarily obvious calls. But in the end, they let Pinedo go, and he has turned out to be quite good. I would say a top 10 featherweight in the world. You'd be surprised sometimes who can really round the corner. I think Pinedo has done that.
PFL finals in both the welterweight and featherweight divisions will be August 1st. I believe it's all the championship of all on the same.
No, so they're actually splitting them up this year across 3 cards. So those two are August 1st. Right?
Hey, PFL, you never know, Luke. They make a lot of changes, and we gave them credit for all the changes in the past week and a half, whether it be the $25 tickets, the new PFL app, which will house live streams of all the international cards, and getting out of the Apexes. But it hasn't all been perfect PR-wise for Don and company when Don welcomed famous actor and good friend, also accused rapist Russell Brand to the PFL Nashville proceedings. Brand was on camera. I didn't watch the full broadcast. I piecemealed the fights this morning, so I don't know if he was featured or interviewed, Luke, but he did appear on camera. And we got another video to show that PFL Social put out of him and Don chopping it up. Luke, is this we're told officially here that it was just a guest spot. He's not doing business with PFL. But 2 weeks ago, he was facing trial for some shit. He's kind of in cancel mode, if you believe in that. Is this a PFL not being self-aware? What are we doing here? I mean, can we get the Tate
So-
brothers next, please? I guess it's what MMA promotions do, right?
I know, it's like, dude, I don't want to hear any, and MMA fans will say they don't care, but then when you insult the sport or when they hear insults about the sport, they get bitter. So they obviously care. Dude, nobody has a right to complain about the rotten reputation that MMA has more broadly. I'm sorry. It's well deserved. It's earned in every possible way. There's nobody they won't say no to. And listen, I don't know if Brand will exonerate himself, BC, but just as like a basic move of understanding how things work in the world, if someone has just recently, to your point, weeks old, been charged with serious crimes, at a bare minimum, just put it on the back burner, right? At a bare minimum. And even if this guy is there in a friendly capacity, they're still putting out, social media assets related to this that seem, just totally inadvisable. And I know there's a bunch of people that are like, he's been charged and not accused of anything. Dude, I've met a lot of people. I've never been friends with anybody who's ever been charged with a crime like this. And I was in the fucking Marine Corps. Like, what are we fucking talking about here? This is absolutely insane. Like, there's people here who don't believe in anything. They don't have any principles. They don't have any standards. They only believe in, here's my tribe, here's theirs. As long as you're in this one, it doesn't really matter who you are and what you've done. We don't really care. It's the saddest, most pathetic way to go through life. And I'll say one more thing about it too, BC. Dude, it used to be the case for much of my career that we could tell people, oh, you don't know enough about MMA, right? The more you might learn, the more you will find that it's actually not what you thought. It is actually much more scientific of a style of fighting. And these guys are great athletes. Like, you have this bad view of MMA because you don't know enough about it. And now we're in a place where the more you learn about MMA, actually the worse it looks, right? The more you look under the hood, the more horrendous it appears. Every terrible thing that people say about this sport on the outside is 1,000% deserved. We earned it because we can't say no to dirtbags. So congratulations, everyone. Welcome to the hell you have brought us to.
Welcome to Morning Combat, brought to you by some shit coin. Okay, I mean, we're close to that, by the way, but no, we're not. We got great sponsors. But yeah, Luke, we are in that era. I'm not surprised, mother effer. It's comical in a way. It's gross. It's whatever.
Did Don Davis see the Tates at Power Slap and he was like, I got to get in on that.
I got a friend. I can one up you. I got a friend. Let me make a phone call. But Luke, here's an actual PFL development that I want to get your take on. If we're just being, oh, Don made this decision, it's probably the bad one. So a tweet came out from the PFL announcing that a lightweight title eliminator between Mansour Bernawi and Archie Colgan has been added to the 2025 PFL World Tournament 6 event on June 20th in Wichita, and it will air live on ESPN. The winner of that fight will be granted a fight against undefeated 155-pound Champions Series title holder Usman Nurmagomedov, who we all felt like the promotion was building against for this big rematch against Paul Hughes, maybe the MMA fight of the year earlier this year. And then we saw Paul Hughes headline that PFL card in Belfast that looked like it was going crazy. He's calling out Usman afterwards. And then you top it off, PFL puts out that tweet. Here's the response reply from Paul Hughes of, hey, quit with the rage bait. And now we also have reports from Hughes that he was texting Usman Nurmagomedov being like, what the frick? What are we going to do this rematch or what? And the quote from Hughes was, I texted him myself last week and I was just like, what's going on? Rematch now? And Usman said, you have to win one more fight, brother. And then Paul would go on to say he's trying to delay this. Luke, we got a lot of issues with PFL from a brand presentation of who are the champions. Are they the PFL champions or are they this champion? Like, it's so crazy. Are they just muddying the waters by not making this fight now when this could be their identity? Hughes and Usman and the rivalry they have.
But bro, if in defense of PFL, if I may, if Nurmagomedov doesn't want it, they can't make him do it. So what are you proposing exactly?
Is this so? You're saying the only reason why they put out this tweet and made this change and are announcing now that the lightweight title eliminator bout will produce the next title contender is because Usman said, no, I don't want the rematch. I want.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, they may have planned on that all along. I don't want to suggest that it's only because of that. But what I am saying is Usman has clearly said to them, I don't want this fight. So what are you supposed to do? Give him more money? What?
John Jones has repeatedly said he doesn't want the Aspinall fight. So what are they supposed to do? Oh, I know. Wait till they announce their next TV deal. Then suddenly that fight will happen. You know that.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, that's what John keeps saying. He just said it again on social media recently. The UFC knows my plans. You need to wait for them to announce it. Maybe that means they've already agreed to it, Luke.
Would be great. Would be great. I'll talk about it when we have those plans confirmed one way or the other. But I'm just saying, people are like, oh, what should the PFL should make this fight? If Usman says no, they can't make him. Oh, give him a bunch of money. But then, that's like robbing Peter to pay Paul to a degree with a promotion that I think it needs to be more diligent about its finances. It's a tough spot for them. I mean, I think that I've been very clear that I think the way in which they arrange their product hamstrings them. And this is part of that problem too. It's not utterly one or the other. But on some level, dude, I've talked to matchmakers, and they have repeatedly stressed to me over the years, you would not believe how many fights that they wanted to get made and they just couldn't because one guy just didn't want it and they can't make them.
Luke, it's not a universally accepted rule, though, that if a fighter says no, that they're in MMA where they have most control anyone could ever imagine because of the Monsopsony and their own league, that they'll be fine with it. Wasn't Jermaine Durandamy stripped for refusing to defend against Chris Cyborg?
Yes.
So were they just not having balls? Like, look, I'm trying to figure out when Usman Nurmagomedov's contract ends, and it appears that at the beginning of this year, he had said publicly leading up to the Paul Hughes fight that he re-signed with them, and he kind of made a comment of, let's see in a year and a half, like, what they have for me. So I don't think it's something where he just doesn't want to fight Hughes and he's going to wait and finish out the deal and then run to the UFC. Although I think he will be in the UFC at the expiration of his deal. I just feel like this is like what they could bank their identity on. Their identity right now, outside of confusing tournaments, is what? Their MMA identity. It's Dakota Ditcheva is a breakout star and an attraction. I'm not even going to bring up that she had to tell Mike Bond publicly how unhappy she was before she could get a fight. But this rivalry should be it. I mean, maybe we're still going to play into this rivalry and build up to it, but I feel like 2025 was a make or break year. They need monster fights to get people to care about their brand. Isn't that rematch, however they want to present it, right? Live on ESPN or on a pay-per-view or however it's going to happen. Isn't that the biggest thing they can do to get eyes and be looked at as legitimate? Or does it not matter because the TV deal's already signed in the same way it doesn't matter for UFC right now of trying really hard because the deal's already guaranteed?
I do think that the way PFL thinks about their fights is as a calendar experience, not individually this one over that one, which I think is part of their issues. BC, you probably make a good point that there's more that they could be doing, putting pressure on Usman to take the fight, right? They could threaten to strip him. They could up the pay. They could do something, who's to say? I don't know. But at the same time, why can't the UFC do it? But the UFC has much more flexibility. They have much greater financial resources. They have much greater leverage.
They're dirtier.
They're much more powerful.
No, PFL what I'm saying is they'll put you in situations as a fighter where they have the leverage and you're really setting
right. And you do that doing that in PFL, they're just going to leave. They're going to do media tours talking to people and say, I want out. And then, that tends to work.
Then you'll get released like Pico
exactly. So the point I'm trying to make is, again, I don't want to absolve PFL from blame here in every way. I think that all things being what they are, making that rematch makes an enormous amount of sense and they should make every effort to do it. However, just never lose sight of the fact that if a guy doesn't want to do it, that's the end of the conversation. And, I think they've kind of found themselves there to a degree.
Quickly, we also, Nocita reminded us that we also have Dirty Boxing 2, the Masvidal card this weekend that is filled with UFC names from Jair Rosenstrike in the main event to Alex Caceres, Luke, taking on...
That's the guy I was telling you about, Said Yakub Kakhramonov.
There you go, Kakhramonov. Man, if your last name is Kakhramonov, you better have a big You know what I mean? Like, right? Am I wrong?
I'll tell him that you want to see his hog. But what I was going to say is,
want to. I just
what's kind of funny about this, BC, is he can strike. He fought in karate combat, but he's actually a wrestler. You know, he's just trying to stay busy. This is what I mean. Like, this dude is easily go to the UFC right now and win fights. Easily. It's just a strange moment in fighters' lives where they have to just take fights where they exist. And if that means a weird kind of boxing rule set, then that's just what you have to do.
Luke, let's transition to topic 3. How about this for daring to be great? We talked after his most recent victory, whether flyweight Joshua Van, despite being just 23 years old, whether this Myanmar future hope is ready for big time names right now. Well, ready or not, he has accepted one, riding a 4-fight win streak, having won 12 of his last 13 overall. Van will make a 23-day turnaround when he replaces an injured Manel Kape, who has a broken foot, to take the fight against number 1 ranked Brandon Royval. That goes down International Fight Week, UFC 317, Las Vegas on June 28th. Van is 7-1 in the UFC, and all 8 fights have come within the last 2 years. So, Luke, straight to the point, number 10, Joshua Van, is he ready for the smoke that the perennial contender Raw Dog is able to bring in this very interesting fight come IFW?
I mean, I feel like it's too much too soon, but I don't know. I hate this fight because if you were planning Josh Van's career, you wouldn't jump this far ahead this quickly. On the other hand, BC, I kind of love this fight because he's trying to jump so far so quickly.
Yes.
And it's such a big test, and it's such a difficult one because Raw Dog is durable, highly experienced. I would say at this point, respectably well-rounded. Obviously, I think they're going to have different skills. Raw Dog's going to be a little bit more of a, grappler, wrestler, mixing it up in the middle kind of fight versus, Van at mid-range, working behind the jab kind of thing. But, Van is aggressive. He puts tons of combination work together. He's going to be there to have openings. Raw Dog is probably going to find him. I mean, dude, this is a very interesting fight. And I have to say, I really appreciate that Royval took this contest because you're giving a shot to someone who is kind of hot as a prospect, and now you're basically treating him as a de facto number 1 contender. I mean, I'm not saying that if he wins, he'll get the title shot, but I'm not saying if he not go. What if he goes in there and he knocks out Royval?
Well, look,
you're doing something that Brandon Moreno couldn't do, basically. I mean, that's insane.
I'm sure Royval's still getting some form of a promise that, because he's the number 1 contender, that you win this fight, just like the same terms if you would have beaten Kape, you're going to get a title shot. So since he's about that life, I would think for him, it's just, I'd rather fight this guy now, early, when he's riding this win streak, when he's still just 23. And if the same stakes are in play and I'm the Raw Dog and I get down like that, and our guy does, Luke. In fact, we got video of Royval being like, I love me some Josh Van.
Josh Van.
Sick. He's my favorite flyweight. It's not me or Luis. Huge Josh Van fan, though. Motherfucker,
yeah, who can be?
Royval wants to make some magic here, Luke, on top of the stakes, right?
It's not the fight that I would have picked. But it's got for dude, when was the last time flyweight had a bunch of intriguing fights all kind of being made?
I mean, the great 4-fight rivalry with Figueiredo and Moreno, but
Josh Van is a breath of fresh air. I still am kind of worried that it's too much too soon, even if he wins, because of what it could do to his development to just get pushed so far so fast. And in fact, we should say, there might even be a criticism due for the UFC that because they have these calendar demands, that they're now kind of cannibalizing their own talent and pushing them too quickly. So I have mixed feelings about this bout, BC. On the one hand, I absolutely understand the excitement and the intrigue and just the battle that awaits, guaranteed action. On the other hand, if Royval loses, he risked a lot to get basically nothing. And in the same event, if Van wins, that's great for him. But I wonder what it does to his long-term development for a guy who's just 23 years old. But here we are. That's what's going to happen. Let's see how it goes.
I mean, look, you're right about the calendar filling being part of it. And if it blows up in their face, then it's like, oh, did we not learn from Sage Northcutt, PVZ? But look, if you've got somebody that's super game, super ambitious, super motivated, and is starting to pick off big names one by one and wants the smoke, I mean, it reminds you of John Jones getting that very quick turnaround against Shogun to make sure that purse snatcher didn't get away before brutally defeating a legend. And suddenly he's that guy right now. He's that guy. That's what Josh Fan has an opportunity to do, Luke. And Vegas believes this is going to be a real fight. Minus 125 on DraftKings is the raw dog favorite. Plus 105 for Josh Fan. Now, Van was on the Ariel Helwani show immediately after this announcement. And Luke, he had a big reveal. You beat Royval, you fight for the damn title. Let's hear the kid.
There's a strong case to be made. You win this fight, you're the number one contender. Do you think that's the case?
Yeah, for sure. Win this fight, I'm the number one.
Have you been told this? You win this fight, you're getting a title shot?
No, but like who am I supposed to fight next? You know what I mean? I just like if I beat the number one guys, I'm the number one. So that's what I'm thinking right now.
Yeah, I know you did mention Brandon Moreno, right, for Noche UFC. So he would be another big name. But I guess in your mind, you win this fight, you're fighting the winner of Pantoja KKF.
Yeah, for sure. The only reason why I call out Moreno was because everybody in the top 15 got a match up and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And it was just me and him that were left. And he said he want to fight on the Noche, so I want to fight in Texas. You know what I mean? So that's the reason why I call him out. But if they give me a title, yeah, I'll go for the title.
You see Royval over there, ranked number 1. You're ranked number 10. Shout out to him for obviously taking the fight. Is he someone that you have been watching, thinking about fighting for the last couple of years?
Nah, to be honest, I didn't think I was gonna fight him next. You know what I mean? But when the opportunity come, I was like, hell yeah, I'll take it. But you know what I mean? I don't really watch fights, but now when they call me for this fight, you know what I mean? I went back and watched all his fights. So.
Oh wow! Did you even know who he was?
I mean, yeah, I know who he was. You know what I mean? He's the top guys in the division and stuff like that. But I ain't really watched like all of his fighting.
Wow, he's like, it's funny. Royval's like, that's my favorite fighter. And then this guy's like, yeah, I don't know his work. But Luke, I stand corrected. He did not say the UFC told him. He was saying, if I beat the number one guy, who else am I going to fight? In your eyes, for Van, if he gets a 5th straight win and defeats the number one contender, is there any reason not to give him the winner? Or is the reason that we kind of saw Steve Erceg just fall apart after giving a title shot?
Exactly. Too much too soon. No, I don't like the idea of giving him a title shot, even with a dominant victory.
Okay.
I would like to see him fight at least another one before doing that. I don't think that that's going to happen. It's not what I'm predicting what will happen if he stops Brandon Royval, but for his own sake, slowing it down just a little bit, I think would really be important.
Yeah, this is a big opportunity. He's going to take it. That's wild here. This should be a fun fight. And it's almost like buried on that card too, with how many big, title fights you got at the top, but I'm going to be fired up to see it. Let's move on to topic number 4. Obviously, we've been talking about this ad nauseum. We knew it could be coming, but we really wasn't sure which rumor, which report to believe as far as the marriage between TKO Boxing. Now, I guess it's called Zuffa Boxing and Turkey Al-Sheikh, Saudi Arabia, in response here to this Canelo Alvarez-Terence Crawford super fight, September 13th. We now know it will be on Netflix. Dana was telling the truth. He's the promoter. We don't have a venue as of yet, but Boxing Scene is reporting that Allegiant Stadium is being sought out aggressively. That would, of course, mean moving UNLV football out of there, but I think that's something that can probably be done given the amount of interest and income this will bring to the city. So, Luke, given, though, the inside report from the folks at the MMA Draw that it actually was some disharmony behind the scenes and it took going the level of bringing in the closer himself, Nick Khan, WWE president under the TKO banner, to be like the arbiter to get Turkey, TKO, and Netflix to agree and sign and do this. This is going to happen. This is going to be a big fight. There's a lot of history at stake. What are your expectations now that we're sort of through this soap opera of how big this fight can be in terms of its build? They're going to kick off a 3-city global press tour in Riyadh, New York, and Vegas. And what are your expectations on the Dana White TKO Zuffa boxing side of it to come out on opening night and announce themselves aggressively in this boxing space?
Can they make this work? That's not to say that I'm not saying can they make Canelo Crawford a successful event. I don't really have any doubt that they will. I think that there's too much money, too many power players, too many people who have experience in the industry doing this at a high level for this event to be some kind of failure. I think it'll be a massive success. You know, what kind of fight you're going to get, I guess we'll see. But in terms of what they can do to engineer interest, I think that they will do a good job. But the way that it was reported was that the Saudis basically want to retain control and that Dana White will be visible. But I think the interesting thing for me to look at, BC, is like, once we see what the event actually looks like, is it going to look like a Dana White event, which is kind of stripped down? I mean, it's nice, you know, it looks modern, it looks sleek, but it doesn't look fanciful in the way that we typically understand pageantry. Or is it going to look like what the Saudis like, which they do like pageantry. They do like the big spectacle. They do like the circus almost atmosphere, which, by the way, to be clear, I tend to prefer that as well for big boxing contests. I think, to me, that's what we're really going to have to take a look at here. You know, Dana White getting out there and doing the media for it is promoting it in a certain way. But with, like, the word promoting is doing some interesting work here. Does promoting mean I'm the guy who goes on the Jim Rome show? I'm the guy who shows up on ESPN First Take? Or does promoting mean that plus the way in which this event will work is according to my interests as a promoter? Like, there will be his signature on the event. Like, clearly he was the one making a call. Are the Saudis just writing a check, or are they writing a check with specific instructions for how this is to look, for how this is to go? To me, that is the interesting question. And one way or the other, I'm not expecting failure nor wishing it. In fact, we should say, BC, them doing a media tour, holding the event in Vegas, and putting it on Netflix is exactly what the American boxing market needs so desperately. A fight that is easy to access, that has, we think, pomp and circumstance, and is not sitting behind a paywall, with big names that the public recognizes in a bout of at least some kind of consequence. And again, taking place in Las Vegas. This is exactly what the fight game needs right now in the United States. So
exactly.
There's no world where I'm in any way rooting for anything but massive success. I guess to answer the question, as I indicated, I'm looking to see who's actually in the driver's seat on this one.
I agree with you. I think that's the biggest intrigue and soap opera salacious side of this, is like, we can read the reports from outlets like MMA Draw and try to decide for ourselves if we believe that's how it's broken down. If you actually care about, was it Turkey that overextended his offer there with Netflix, that things got sour, or was it really the potential of finding out that Canelo Alvarez told Turkey he's not going to fight in Saudi anymore, it has to be in the US, and that he's not a Friday night fighter, as the card was originally pitched to be the Friday night of that weekend. He's a Saturday night fighter. It seems, if that's true, then that's Turkey sort of bending aggressively to him. Is that the reason why we had disconnect? I don't really know. And at the end, you could say, I don't care. But to me, this is going to dictate how this relationship will go. The UFC does not, and TKO are not involved in these type of ventures unless they have full control. And UFC has that editorially. They have that in every possible way. But this time, it's not their money. So will this be a thing? Because everyone I talk to who's ever worked for Turkey, they're like, he's on top of every single decision. It's his show. And Luke, we even have video now from Eddie Hearn, who kind of revealed that, like, that's how it is working for Turkey. When you're working for Turkey, you're giving up in exchange for the money and, the opportunity to do these big events. You're giving up the control and the decision making. I don't know yet if I believe that Dana and TKO and Zuffa, or whatever you want to call them, are going to be down for that, or if it's going to operate this way. Here's Eddie Hearn. I'd like to get your response on this.
Would you have liked to have been the promoter of this fight?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, it's a fantastic fight, but I don't think. But the reality is the promoter of this fight is Turki Al-Sheikh. It doesn't matter when, whenever there's a Riyadh season event or a Ring Magazine event, all the decisions are made from His Excellency. I've been involved, and you actually don't really get much of an opportunity to make any decisions, because he makes them all for you. You know, everything down to the design of the promo, to the on-sale ticket dates, to the venue deal. I mean, they're financially bankrolling the event, so they're going to be making all the decisions. I think it's a good look to have Dana doing it. I mean, you know, you're not really, you know, you're a guest promoter, and that's really what a lot of us are when we do Riyadh Season or Ring Magazine events. So, should I be doing it? No, not really. I mean, look, I think Dana's got a much bigger profile than me in America, so I get the move. I wouldn't be able to do it anyway because I'm exclusive to DAZN, and obviously the fight's on Netflix. But no, I think it's a pretty cool move, really. I think it's good for boxing. You know, I think, as I said to you before, Dana's making a move into boxing for a reason.
Luke, there we go on to some lengthy stuff there in his appearance on DAZN's Ariel and Ade show. But what do you make from the standpoint of who is stamping those decisions at the end of the day? Can this relationship work if it's set up the way Eddie just described?
I mean, Nick Khan already worked a bit of a, I don't know if miracle is the word, but certainly some careful surgery to put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
And by the way, he had just done that in the re-signing of WWE's R-Truth and his surprise appearance at the pay-per-view last weekend. The report was that it took, after R-Truth turned down multiple offers from WWE TKO to re-sign because they realized they had done him wrong, it took Nick Khan on that too, Luke. So is Nick Khan the Band-Aid that needs to be there at all times?
Yeah. I mean, he's clearly a valuable contributor to the operation. Here's where I come down on this, BC. People have asked me, like, can this relationship between TKO and Saudi Arabia ultimately work? Because Netflix is here, but, you know, who knows how long they're going to be along for the ride. On the one hand, their relationship makes total sense, right? Huge money meets huge corporation with tons of ties, like dominates the fight business. Like, of course that relationship makes sense, right? Unlimited wealth plus essentially unlimited, not quite, but unlimited power. That makes sense. On the other hand, like, it just seems destined for failure too, right? On, like, you've got someone with unlimited power that wants all the control versus people who have enjoyed all the control themselves and may not have access to that same kind of capital, but they're certainly well capitalized. They're used to calling the shots and they're used to having decisions. How long can this relationship actually sustain? Again, I think Canelo versus Crawford is going to be a success no matter what, and probably a huge one at that. But I guess I'm a little bit unsure of the long term of what kind of fruit this partnership can actually bear when there are, again, which this seems inevitable, disagreements over who gets say and what matters and what goes. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think it's a big topic to follow. And anyone's, you know, smart enough to remember, you'll say, no, BC, we have seen the UFC be the co-pilot before in something like this. And that would be obviously Mayweather-McGregor, but that was on boxing's terms, and UFC wasn't happy with their co-pilot spot and complained the whole time about every Showtime decision. There was a lot of back and forth behind the scenes between the two sides. And I think it fueled even further Dana going, if I'm doing something like this, you know, and I'm putting my name on it, I'm going to be in control. So we'll see how that goes. The current DraftKings odds for this fight are Canelo Alvarez as your minus 185 favorite. Crawford is only a plus 150 underdog. And it's, I mean, it helps that Canelo's coming off that awful fight with William School. I think that brought a lot of people back in on the, yeah, maybe Crawford really does have a chance. I do believe Crawford has a chance, but we can't look away on the chance, the same chance he has to get bodied and just finding out that this is too big. But then again, that's part of the reason why we are going to tune in. And now, Luke, if we're talking from a standpoint of any shots being fired here, how about Turki Al-Sheikh this week being very aggressive and coming out and sending a message on social media to all future Riyadh Season and Ring Magazine card fighters so that we don't have a repeat, you would think, of that weekend, March or May 2nd in Times Square with the low CompuBox historic numbers there, and then Canelo that next night. Shots fired, brought to you by Cuervo. You already know now's a good time to enjoy the tequila that invented tequila. Let's hear it. Shots fired. And here is the tweet in question From this point on, I don't want to see any more Tom and Jerry type boxing matches where one fighter is running around the ring and the other is chasing him. We can no longer support these kind of fights with Riyadh Sisson in the ring. We want to support fighters who leave it all in the ring and fight with heart and pride. Now, Luke, I'm not saying I disagree with that or that any of us disagree with that. Do you think that that stern warning is going to be enough to induce the type of action we feel like, we deserve for the money, pay-per-view prices and the money that these guys are being paid?
With Canelo Crawford, or you mean like in general?
General.
No.
That's a message he's sending to the boxing
Yeah.
world.
So what? I mean, guys are going to win the way they know how to win. That's just what it's going to be. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. But I mean, the reality is, he who pays the piper calls the tune. This is what he wants. This is what he's asking for. This is what he's demanding. I don't think it's going to make much of it. I mean, that makes some difference, I suppose, maybe on the margins. But it's like, an edict over Twitter and then saying something to someone in person. Just one of these Saudi Arabian purses is enough for some of these guys to be like content with their situation, or they're always going to have some kind of excuse about why they had to fight a certain way. You have to change the incentive structure in a real way, not in a threatening way, to get what you want out of these guys. It just doesn't work that way, especially when they're already well capitalized. It's not like people who need to get the rent money so that their lights don't get turned off or something. I'm skeptical that it actually works, but this is what you're going to get. Again, boxing has decided to go all in on a religious monarchy dictatorship.
Well, there's people saying this is kind of coincides perfectly with either the TKOization of boxing, which they're attempting to do, or maybe just the Dana White influence. Isn't that a very Dana move to incentivize action like that? We've seen it, countlessly in UFC.
Yeah, but there's not a ton of evidence that it actually works. That's the problem.
I agree with you, but it kind of feels like it's a Dana type move in a lot of ways, and they're partners.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's dictatorial, which to be clear, it's not like I even disagree with what he's asking for in a sense of, is what he's asking for desirable if it worked? I mean, who would argue otherwise? What, you want to see boring fights? Nobody wants to see boring fights. But it's a question of the promoter and what they want out of this. And it's not a question of, are they asking for something that is desired by fans in this case? The question is, if you're making these kinds of edicts in public, imagine what they're doing in private, right? That's sort of the issue. Imagine the heavy-handedness that comes with doing business. But boxing appears to want the paycheck and are happy to do business with people who make outrageous demands. So, this is the bed they have made. Time to lay in it.
Somewhat related to this, on the idea of Turkey being very Dana-like of late, is the way that Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney fight seemed to get announced and then fall apart, and everyone blamed Teo. Here was him on a recent podcast sit down where interesting comments about how that fell apart.
I think I'm gonna publicly announce it right now, okay? And this is not talking bad on Turkey Al-Sheikh. It's not talking bad on any of the guys that was part of the deal. However, listen, I don't mind fighting anyone they put in front of me. However, I am a prize fighter. I am a person that is about principles. Sella and I, we signed fight 2 and 3 contract with X amount of dollars. And when it came to, before we actually signed the fight with Barboza, my team and I and my lawyers, we all came to an agreement for fight 2 and 3 being signed before we did fight 1. Okay, now, with that being said, we successfully did fight 1, which was against Barboza. Fight 2 includes, and I quote, Jerome Boots Ennis or any other fighter that is in that high calibrated level, meaning could be Haney, Rolando Romero, anyone that you guys want to see us face against. That was fight 2. That was signed and sealed with X amount of dollars that I will not express here. There's none of your damn business. When we came to fight 2, seller in Riyadh and all this said, we're not going to pay you what we agreed on for August. So there you have it. And the fact that they publicly announced the fight before I even signed the damn deal. Like, couldn't they just wait? I felt like part of me feels like I got kind of like jobbed in the sense of like, was the Boost fight even something that was happening or not?
Luke, it was lengthy there, and you had to hear some chewing while he's speaking. But on that, I look like an IG live stream, not a podcast. Either way, announcing a fight that's not signed for, that seems we've seen that before on the MMA side. Do you believe him? Is he a valid voice in this space? Are we seeing signs of discontent, or is this just obvious that the purse is tightening now from the original rollout of the past year and a half of Riyadh season, and that we're ready to merge with TKO and UFC here? So is there more of that in your eyes?
I'm just amazed he was able to get through a few minutes without the N-word. I'm really just kind of like blown away. It was a incredible restraint on his part. Yeah, I mean, this is the Saudi plan, right? You just show up and you spray a bunch of money at first and you don't make a lot of demands about it, and everyone kind of loves it. And then slowly over time, the demands start increasing. And then slowly over time, the expectations start increasing. And then slowly over time, the control starts to tighten and some of the games start to go up. This is their plan. They show up and everyone's like, oh, they treat them like avuncular figures showing up on Christmas Day with presents for all of their nieces and nephews. But it all comes at a cost. There's no such thing as a free lunch. This is where we're at now. So I believe what he's saying. I believe him. I believe what he is telling. I believe that they are announcing stuff without it being signed. And I believe that they might be playing games about some belt tightening, although obviously their purses are still going to be, higher than what you would normally get. But again, it's not like they weren't warned. Hey, I don't know if it's a great idea to do business with a religious dictatorial monarchy, but they didn't listen. So enjoy it.
All right. Zuffa Boxing coming to a theater near you. No, this is a big launch, though. We'll see how this fight goes. Luke, topic number 5. Interesting potential trend here that you put on my radar. PFL's Logan Storley, who, of course, last night advanced to the welterweight final on August 1st, is saying he believes the NIL money available to college athletes, and in particular college wrestlers, is so much that it's actually preventing potential college wrestling stars from making that transition to MMA, which has been such a fruitful pipeline in this sport's history. Luke, he gave an interview with MMA Fighting where he went on to elaborate further, but what are your thoughts on this?
This to me seems like it might be a big problem. People have rightly noted that the bang you got for your buck by getting a wrestler out of college and putting him to MMA has declined relative to what it was circa Matt Hughes, 2-time All-American, never won a national title, but obviously was very, very good and a huge figure in that welterweight division and really MMA at the time, like what it meant to have a premier athlete with that particular skill set come over. That is true. The level of what you get, or the amount of what you get by just taking a good elite wrestler out of college and putting in MMA, has declined. That part is true. However, the factors that put them there, which is that, unless you could make an Olympic or world team, basically your career prospects were done after college. And again, in a world where everyone was a student athlete, this constrained their options to such a degree that they had nowhere else to go. But here comes MMA, and all of a sudden now you can make some money as a wrestler. But two things have happened. One, the growth of sport jiu-jitsu has taken many of them that would ordinarily have done this, Michael Pixley, Jason Nolf, to name but a few. I should say 3 things. 2, now you can do like seminars and tutorials that you can sell online, and you can do some coaching, and you can make a pretty decent coin. And now there's this NIL money. And again, that's not going to affect like every wrestler. There's still going to be wrestlers who don't make a lot, who don't have a lot of career prospects, who are still very, very good, who might be interested in MMA. It's not like you're completely shutting off the valve. But BC, part of the reason why MMA was able to sell itself for a time was not just because you could say, hey, these guys have college degrees. That was part of it. But you could talk about their athletic pedigree and where they came from, and people intuitively understood this. And more to the point, it was just feeding the ranks of who was there all the way from heavyweight down to, you name it, virtually any weight class below it. And now, I mean, ask yourself what it means to have this pipeline, not completely shut off, but to be severely diminished. I'm not saying it's the UFC's fault because they didn't pay enough. And, I should say that I don't think that helps. Like, that clearly doesn't help. But the point I'm trying to make is, who can solve this problem? Because it's a much bigger problem than just the UFC's problem. It's I would argue, something of a global problem because there's also a broader set of circumstances. You could get guys like Fabricio Verdum and Josh Barnett and Frank Mir and you name it to compete at a time when the prizes weren't necessarily as high because it was still this new coveted thing that would attract people who would make that trade-off. But now you're not getting as many people of that athletic caliber or interest to make that trade-off. And then on top of it, you're adding these issues about what wrestlers can now have options with either NIL or submission grappling and or coaching and tutorials online in between. So you've got a global and in particular a domestic supply problem. Well, how do you fix that? It's not going to, I mean, if to an extent, the UFC has been able, and all promotions, but obviously we talk about UFC because of the flag bearer, they've been able to just receive the sport as it is. There was enough homegrown things happening. There were enough mechanisms in play that put the wind at the UFC's back. But just taking heavyweight, BC, the wind is no longer at their back, even with the growth of the sport globally. It seems to me that like somebody, some kind of entity is going to have to change or go on a recruiting spree or do something to make sure that we have a consistent level of talent available in order to make the sport work the way that it once did. And I recognize that what wrestlers brought is not the same as what it meant 10 or 15 years ago, but it's still pretty valuable and it's still pretty important. To lose that is not a good thing.
No, and I agree with you that it's not, one person or one entity's fault, that it's the result of bringing in so much change. And a lot of the change was necessary, but collegiate athletes have leverage and rights now and get paid and can transfer through the portal seemingly at will. So it's a different time in that regard. Interesting from Storley in particular, in talking to MMA Fighting, he says a lot of the top guys are making, meaning collegiate wrestlers, between $1 million and $1.5 million with their NIL endorsement deals. So it's changing the way the top recruits look at it. His specific quote was, "I think the landscape of MMA has changed with Contender Series and less guys on the roster with PFL, Bellator being gone. It's changed a little bit. Wrestling has some money and there's no security in your early career in MMA. That's just the truth of it. The first few years are very, very tough. And I think with guys making money over there and going into coaching and coaching rules, you have a little more security. More guys are just getting regular jobs and don't want to do MMA. I think it'll be interesting the next 5 years, what it looks like with wrestlers coming over. It's changing a lot, Luke. So this is a trend to follow. But if you can make that kind of money and not take the punishment and not have to be dirt hungry and living in your car, which is how a lot of MMA careers seem to start off, and you're already famous, it's going to take the industry to, if they really want these guys, to develop an incentive structure of early recruitment, and to foster that relationship. It can't be I
also think, I know no one wants to hear this. It's a tired debate and I'm tired of having it, but better fighter pay might fix some of this too.
That's also true. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. All right, those are our 5 topics this week. Thank you for playing. I'm told we don't have any dead wrong. So, Luke, we passed the test this past week.
Good to know I was right about everything.
There we go. morningcombat@gmail.com is your pathway to Friday segments of Dead Wrong fan subs, or just to reach out to the show or show Mikey your piece. But please don't do that. Let's do a submission segment where you put up pics and tight t-shirts of your significant others. This one's called Fan Subs.
You've got mail.
Viewers we do have. One of them is Saul from Louisville, the finest gutter man this side of anything, Luke, okay? He gets it done in and out of the ring, if you know what I mean. He says, made the trip from Louisville, to Bowling Green, a 2-hour commute for Abuelo's 81st birthday. My cousin Jessica made the trip with me, and we stopped at the local Bucky's on the way down, and she drove my drunk ass all that way back. Luke, you know Saul is repping MK in everything that he does in life. I love that he gives us these little snippets of his personal life. Shout out to Abuela. Shout out to cousin Jessica, right?
Wait. Go back to the picture with the cake.
I was gonna say it's Abuelo.
Abuelo, excuse me, my fault.
Yeah, but more than
Abuelo.
that, look at the top of that cake. That looks like either the logo for CONMEBOL. You know, CONCACAF is the North American Soccer Federation,
Sure.
essentially. CONMEBOL is the one for South America, or it looks like the one for maybe Ecuador. I can't quite tell, but I'd be curious to see what that logo is that's on
Well,
top of
Saul
the soccer.
is also a big fan of Pack My Bowl. Luke can smoke it, so never
Yeah.
forget that
Who isn't?
side of it too. Well-dressed man.
And
right
look at
there.
these. They got tahine over there
Oh,
next to the
yeah.
hot sauce. They got the tapatio. Shit, brother. They're doing it right.
Dude, we should do, I've always said it. Well, we don't have the budget anymore, but we should do a WWF in your house contest where MK, if you win, comes to your house, does an episode from your house, parties with you right there.
Dude, look at me right now. I would 1000% do that. If
Saul will have
if
to win
somebody
that.
wants to make it worth our while, at a bare minimum, I will 1000% do that. I will 1000% do that.
And he's like, I will blow up your restroom. So
Yeah,
think
and
twice.
BC will bang your girl because that's his
Okay,
dream.
here we go. Hey, our second one comes from Kim Bong Il. He says, Sup Donks, made some memes of a running joke from the main card minute live streams thanks to Bong Island Luke's suggestions. Hashtag main card memes. Yeah, what's up with that, Luke?
Okay, this is a running joke back to when we were debating in February what was better, the UFC Saudi card or UFC 312, and Luke was adamant that UFC 312 was better, even though everyone
On
agrees
paper it was. In
Saudi was
practice,
better.
it wasn't.
So it's been a running joke in my chat that UFC Vegas 107, which was the Blanchfield Barber debacle, Luke would argue it's a better card than Saudi Arabia because he just.
I mean, I would not actually argue that, but these
Yeah.
are funny memes. Yeah.
Oh, here's a BC one. UFC Saudi was better than UFC Vegas 107. LT says, "Are you?"
I think my favorite part about these photoshops is how unbelievably shitty they are. You know,
that's the least effort ever to put a head on the neck.
really
but I'm
is
here
quite
for it,
amazing.
yeah. All right. Thank you, Kim Bong Il, for that one.
Dude,
Let's go to
now that you put that in my head, we should do what was the Metallica thing called MTV?
it was just WWF in your house. That's
No. So don't you remember Metallica had held the contest?
Yeah. No,
with MTV.
VH1 did one because John Mellencamp played in somebody's backyard with that same contest.
Dude,
I forgot what it
I'm
was called.
telling you, MK Donks, I don't know how you can make it worth our while. I will show up to your house. We will do MK. We will party. We'll hit the bong. We'll do all that fun stuff.
Okay,
and
but
we'll put it all on camera.
First of all, we got to get Jake there with the cameras, but also are we limiting it to US, or are we going to end up between the boss lady and Jay Puckett in Nova Scotia? You know what I mean? Like
I would go to Canada.
Wow.
Yeah, I
All
would
right.
do it.
We should
Now,
take
I'm
Joe
also
Pfeiffer to
going to
Mexico.
take a dump upper decker style in your house and then just leave.
Okay, yeah. See, that's what the actual in your house element is. We will break
Yeah.
your plumbing, MK style. I got to get out of here. Let's speed it up. This is Joe M. He says Father's Day is coming up. I found the perfect gift for BC's kids to get him. Oh my God, that's an autographed 9/11 Bin Laden jersey that's signed by Robert O'Neill, the Navy SEAL who killed Bin Laden, for $85. That is.
You gotta wear that every September in New York City.
Dude, would I get like immediately taken down if I walk the New York City streets with that, or does it just fit in on the crazy New York
I
City?
don't know anymore. I can't tell.
Yeah. Wow, Joe, that was incredible. Also to close, Alan W is the Hall of Fame contributor of this segment. Big fan of that international man of mystery. He says we got 5 photos here. First of them is Morning Combat's Punch Out, Luke. It's
I read books. Suck my balls, Thomas.
against Lil Brian. This is great.
Dude, you gotta send that to me. That's unbelievable.
Also,
I mean,
look at
that's
the
gotta be-
score.
over the penis.
The
I mean,
score in the top left and the
Go
points.
see the 9/11 in the top left. Oh my God. No, oh my God. No, Cena, look at the points, 420. Are we able to put this on a t-shirt under US law? Please, can we sell
I
this?
think
Oh my
we should
God.
be able to. I don't
Dude,
see
this
anything wrong.
is maybe one of my favorite fan subs I've ever seen.
That is so good.
Fucking awesome.
With the DC flag on your groin too.
Yeah, on the
Wow.
penis.
Yeah, that's so good. All right. Alan W's got one called Deep Thoughts.
Deep Thoughts by Luke Thomas. Just because you don't give up doesn't mean you will make it.
Look at that garish robe you're wearing too. Yes. Yes.
And the loafers, I would never wear loafers like that, but it absolutely works for the picture.
We got a youth basketball camp is our next one. Eric Campbell's youth basketball camp and School of Discipline. Yes, for those hardcores that listen to the BC Ramble, that's what I do to my kids on the driveway. I play dirty, I play hard, I talk trash.
Dude, we got to do a tournament, you versus like a series of 11 and 12-year-olds, and then they lower the hoop so you can dunk on them.
Oh, dude, that'd be so good. Scalabrini style, just show up at your driveway and just ruin your kids. That'd be great. Yeah. And then probably take your significant other home. Yeah, bro. There you go. We also have scooter rentals, Luke.
Bangkok scooter rentals.
Oh, please, could this be a t-shirt? I mean, seriously, if we made this a shirt, how many would we sell? Am I wrong? Is it like 7?
All of them.
We can't
All
use
of them.
John Jones likeness like that, but maybe if we like blur out his face or something, we could still do. You could imply it's John Jones.
Do you think we'd sell 500 of those?
No,
they should have spelled Bangkok C-O
yes,
BK, but you know, other way.
I mean, what are you implying here? Let's go to the final one. He says they are degenerate on the ground. Now they have wings. It's donk air. Luke, you are the what's that guy's name? The actor that plays the bald guy in that movie. John Malkovich. That's you.
John
right
Malkovich,
there.
yeah.
I'm Nicolas Cage in the middle with the hair, and there's no Cena. Oh, that's so good.
So is Nosita Cusack?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he is. Great. Wow, that is great. Alan W., thank you. Thank you so
Dude,
much for your artistic
that
contribution.
Mike Tyson's punch out one is put it up one more time. Put the Mike Tyson's punch out. The 911, the 420, the 202, by the way, on round 1. 202 is the area code here for phone numbers.
Oh, wow. That's a deep dive right there.
Dude, that is absolutely first fucking. And also look at your face on the bottom right-hand corner.
Yeah.
That's your rapist face. You know what I mean?
Okay, I know that. Wow, we can call it my French Canadian face moving
Okay,
forward.
all right,
but-
French Canadian.
All right, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. Fantastic stuff. morningcombat@gmail.com. Like and subscribe. Here are our handles if you're ready to handle them. morningcombat.shop. Luke Nosita is a great guy. Follow his show, The Main Card Minute, as well. Luke Thomas, anything else? No, probably not.
I might do a live stream this weekend for Buckley and Usman. So stay tuned for
follow that on
youtube.com/Luke Thomas.
There you go. Check out the Substack as well. I got to watch that Kyle Kulinski interview, Luke. Find out what's going on.
It's up.
There.
I just put it up this morning.
Well done right there. All right, that's it. We out of here. Let's get it done. I don't know. I got to go. Thank you. There you go.